morning, everyone. My name is Katie Simmons. I'm President and CEO of the Chico Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to our safety meeting. The purpose of this safety meeting is to hear an update from the Chico Police Department, to hear a little bit about what we've been hearing from the businesses and from park users and community members, and then to give you all an opportunity to ask questions, directly connect with your police department, hopefully take down some contact information for some follow-up conversation. We did prepare surveys for everyone today. I think they're yellow. And our hope is that if you're not able to ask your question today and you aren't able to stay after, that you do let us know what you're hearing, what your concerns are, what some opportunities might be, so that we can follow up with you in the future. I'm a member of Team Chico, an economic development collaborative in the city of Chico, and the Chamber, the Downtown Chico Business Association, there's Melanie over there, 3CORE, and Alliance for Workforce Development. We have some team members here too. We have been canvassing the city over the last couple of years, conducting business walks. And when we walked along the Mangrove area, chatting with businesses, we heard some pretty significant concerns. We heard concerns about the Next Cycle facility, about some retaliatory and aggressive behavior. We heard about bike and petty theft. We heard about camping and trespassing in and around businesses, in the parks, and in people's residences and neighborhoods. We heard public health and sanitation concerns and park concerns, which Ann Willman from the C.A.R.D Center will go over in just a minute. So what we're hoping to accomplish today, as I mentioned, is just better connectivity with the police department here in Chico, which is growing, as we'll hear from the chief of police in just a few minutes. And also just to sort of encourage this type of community conversation. We have been holding these meetings throughout Chico, particularly along the Nord Corridor and South Campus area, and we've had some incredible success come out of that area. So if we find that this is a very helpful meeting, we will come back and we will do this again, and we will invite you to all continue to be a part of this conversation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ann Willman, General Manager for C.A.R.D, who's going to tell us a little bit, as I did, what she's been hearing from park users.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. I was thrilled to have the opportunity to host this meeting here. As you guys know, we are very close to the Mangrove business area, and we have a lot of activity specifically behind our activity center, as well as within our parks. Parks are meant to be areas where people relax and lounge and sometimes catch a nap. And so we'd like to have a balanced use of those parks and appropriate use of those parks. And so we have had great success in working with the police department to increase our patrols in those areas and make our parks safer. And we would like to just encourage, again, the appropriate use of our parks and make sure that they are a welcome area for everyone to participate in. For those of you, I'm curious how many folks here are residents that are around this area? And how many of you are businesses? I think it's an interesting representation because you are all very connected to this area and see the impact, I'm sure, on a daily basis, and I'm sure that we will hear from several of you. But my office is here, and I am absolutely open to any concerns or questions that you might have in regards to our park system, and happy to find those solutions. So thank you very much for coming today.
And before I just want to introduce City Manager Mark Orm in the back, Assistant City Manager Chris Constantine, and I believe Councilmember Ann Schwab is here as well. And Randall Stone is here as well. So welcome. Thank you for being part of this conversation. If you're able to stick around afterwards, maybe you can continue conversation with the audience as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Michael O'Brien to give us an update on the Chico Police Department.
Thank you, and good morning. I think this is great that we have such a cross-section of Chico coming to talk about something that is, I'm sure, very personal to many people in this room. And it's what I have coined the quality of life crime that is going on in our community. That is not unique to Chico, but is certainly something that we have felt very significantly. And it's crime that affects people where they live, where they work, where they shop, and where they recreate. And this particular corridor really represents all of those four things. We have Bidwell Park, where people like to recreate, We've got businesses in this area where people like to shop, and we have homeowners that are here also impacted by this same phenomena. So first, I thank you as your police chief, chief of police, for your attendance, taking time out of your busy schedule, and coming to talk about very important issues that affect all of you and your police department. It is the core of community-oriented policing to have this kind of interchange, this exchange of information to allow us to do our job better, but also to collaboratively address these issues. I've had 2 other meetings this morning. My voice is starting to go. But address these things collaboratively so that you feel better where you work, where you recreate, where you live, and where you shop. All important things. So I thought I'd give you a quick update on the department. I want to thank the City Council, first of all, and the City Manager's Office for making public safety the #1 priority. I think this community wants to make public safety its #1 priority, and that's a good thing, because we need it right now. The impact of various things that are outside of our control, prison realignment, of Prop 47, they're all having an effect on every community in California, but specifically they're occurring in our community, which is my concern and your concern as members of the City of Chico. So in addressing that and making public safety #1, the council and the City Manager's Office has allowed me and us as a police department to hire back police officers to allow us to do our jobs better. I'm not going to wallow in the past. We had to cut services. It was a tough time. Everyone knows that. We're not going to make any excuses about that. But the good thing is your police department is being built back brick by brick. This morning I referenced a couple of meetings that I had. One was a press conference where we introduced 4 new members of the Chico Police Department and our new target team that are off seated to my right. And I'll talk about those folks in just a quick second. But it's important to note that a police department takes many facets to function well and impact crime in a community. It takes more than just a target team. It takes a strong patrol staff. It takes a strong dispatch. It takes a strong detective bureau. And it takes a strong records and evidence unit to work well. And your police department is building back. So this time next year, we expect to have all of our 92 police officer allocated positions identified and either fully trained or close to being fully trained. The issue right now is we've been building back. It's easy to dismantle a police department. It is much harder to put it back just because of time. So it takes about 1 year to take a police officer, send them to an academy, put them through a field training program, and have them be a fully functioning police officer. The good thing is we have all of those 92 positions identified, soon to be hired, and then by this time next year, hopefully, if we don't lose any more officers, fully trained. That is significant. That will allow us to provide the level of service that I think this community wants and your police department wants. Because I think we all are being impacted by those cuts. We all are being impacted by this quality of life crime. We're all being impacted and need to do something about it, and we're going to do that together. So that's a good thing. The other good thing is I introduced our new target team to the community, and they're seated off to my right. Sergeant Scott Zushin, Officer Paul Ratto, Officer Jeff Durkin, and our new community outreach officer, Ed Nelson. And they're comprised, and they will comprise the target team heading forward today with the plans to add 2 more police officers by the end of the year, and then 2 more sometime next year, hopefully by this time, for a total of 6. And those target team members, those 6 officers will be assigned to one of our 6 beats in this community. Chico is divided into 6 beats, and that's how we respond to crime. These officers will be assigned to a geographic region, much like we did with our mid-level managers, our lieutenants. to start addressing the crime that we're here to talk about today, and I've heard so much about in my my short time, 100 days, as your chief of police. In addition to the target team, we're going to look at technology that'll aid us in more efficiently and effectively providing resources to these community problems. We're going to become more vigorous in our support of Neighborhood Watch. It was one of the things that kind of went by the wayside to some degree when we went through all our cuts. And I want to equate staffing to service, and it's important to do that because I can tell you a number of 92 police officers. It will not mean a hill of beans unless I explain what that means. But when we were at our lowest, some things had to go. Some services had to go. It doesn't mean that they weren't important, but we became really a very reactive police department that was only able to respond to calls for service, and we're not able to provide, I think, the level of service that we had become accustomed to as a police department, a full-service agency, and you had been accustomed to with your police department. So we're building that back. But the technology I was talking about that we want to enhance Neighborhood Watch, the virtual Neighborhood Watch is the Nextdoor app. So we're going to reinvigorate that or start that to a greater degree than we've done in the past. And we also are going to introduce a new Chico PD app that will allow greater access to the police department. And really what we have done at the police department starting in July, so 30 days into my tenure as your chief of police, we reorganized this police department into a community policing model. We wanted that structure to represent that. And I took two captains, and just so you guys know what the department looked like, and it looked like for many, many years, we had a support division and we had an operations division. Each of those divisions was headed by a captain. So I did away with the two captains. I made one deputy chief, Dave Brett. He now does a job of two individuals, so he's happy with that new reassignment. But I took one of those captains and made them a lieutenant and really flattened the organization to provide better access to this community, because we realized in this day and age that connection with our community, working collaboratively, finding solutions that are comprehensive in nature, is the only way we're going to make Chico safe. So we restructured to represent that reality, to better build a community-oriented policing model, and the introduction of our target team today is a furtherance of that effort. So we have other things that are on the horizon. Like I said, the accessing of social media, starting our app to provide better access to the police department. These meetings in particular are critical to our success as a community and as a police department. We have to be engaged. We need to hear from you guys. And I can tell you right now, you're not going to hurt my feelings hearing some tough things. That's okay. I know we've been in a tough situation. I want to hear that. We want to hear it as a police department. And we're here to find solutions for it. No, your police department is not fully staffed yet. No, we're going to have some limitations. But there are ways that we can find to help mitigate things to the best of our ability given our current staffing levels, but with an eye towards the future when we are fully staffed and better able to provide those services that are so needed at this time. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. We need this communication. It is the very core of community-oriented policing, is having this engagement, having tough questions asked. That's okay. You're not, like I said, you're not going to hurt my feelings. We need to hear from you, and we need to find collaborative solutions as a community to help impact this quality of life crime.
Great, so we're going to open it up for questions. If we don't hear any at first, we'll probably have maybe the deputy chief say a few words. But does anyone have anything that pops immediately to mind that you want to share with the group today, or ask a question of the police department? I see a woman behind you.
Is the Nextdoor app divided into the same areas as your beats? It seemed rather large.
Hi. Scott Zushin. I've already been introduced. Anyway, some of you may know me. I'm working on the Nextdoor app with the target officers, and I will be assigning them to specific beat areas within the Nextdoor app itself. We just accomplished that with Nextdoor. We were able to send them files that they needed to divide up our city into our beat areas. and I will be able to make an officer responsible for each of those areas. So yes, in answer to your question, yes.
And will we be notified who that is?
Yes. The reason we haven't launched yet is I just haven't had the resources to manage the information that would be coming in. So we wanted to have all of those resources identified and work out some of the bugs, get the beat areas lined up before we even launch that out there. We just wanted everybody to know that we had partnered with them. So it will be soon this week.
Yeah, I just have a question. As far as the beat officer, there's just one assigned to a beat, but do we get coverage with all those officers driving around town? Because our problem across the street, and our problem is the same thing they have here, people sleeping all around. It helps somewhat now that the Rite Aid has put a lock on their container, what the kind of cardboard, because that's where they get it. Plus, I've had experience this summer twice, and I actually had to buy a shovel for the office, the shovel being an excrement in front of my door, which I just did in last week. That's just starters. But if you need somebody that swings by and shines the light in the open area, it's in front of the office. Our office goes across the street, goes in, and the roof, and they like to do it there.
So if you could just repeat your question again is, will the rest of the department be doing what the target team's doing?
Well, under the beat on, obviously you can't replace fires at the time.
Right, so
Check things, but is it going to be, other than this, I'm going to check for these.
So to tail on what the chief said, with regard to the reorganization of the department under the community-oriented policing model, that's part of it. So the target team will be tackling major issues in neighborhoods in the community, and information such as this will come into the department to a central, usually through dispatch. Now we'll be having a mobile app that will take that information in as well. We'll also get it through Nextdoor, but it'll all be communicated to one source and then dispersed out to patrol and the beat officers that are responsible for that area, working graveyard, swing shift, and day shift. So yes, better communication is part of our reorganization under the community-oriented policing model.
The other problem that relates to this is there are cleaning people, you ladies coming into it. If somebody's sleeping, we don't get to
Right.
clean about half of our days a week.
And that specific information is something that you could call into dispatch. We will actually have a phone tip line soon that we will be launching. It can be emailed to the department. We will have an email available, but you could call it into dispatch, let them know the specifics of the problem you're having, and that'll get sent out to patrol, and I will be referred as well, and be able to follow up on it with the target team too. So I hope that answers your question.
My question is rather specific. I don't know if I want to go into specifics right now. I read an article this morning about ghost writing. Two people, one person, two bikes. How long does it take to get the serial number submitted to CloudLogic into your permanent files so that officers can impound it? How long does that take?
Here we go.
It depends on what day of the week that it happens. So we have people in our records department that input the serial numbers. So potentially that information, if it came in on a weekend, it could be 2 days before it's entered into the computer. Well, the dispatchers do have the ability to search immediately the information through the dispatch center, but it requires a couple of additional steps. So yeah, there is a potential for lag time depending on who's on duty at that point.
And that does speak to an important component that we think is critical, particularly as it relates to the bike theft issue, is making sure that we're getting bikes registered. Too often our officers are finding bikes, the ghostwriting example that was just mentioned, they flip the bike, they look at the serial number, and it doesn't come back registered and does not come back as stolen. So we have no recourse but to allow that person to continue off of that bike. So getting the community to realize the importance of registering their bicycles, and that's one of the things this app will provide. is a way to photograph the bike, record the serial number, so in the event that bike is stolen, getting that information to the police department. So that'll be a key feature of that app as well.
And when is that app coming?
I believe by the couple weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, Scott?
Yeah, we're still in development right now. The layout's done. We've selected our application, different resources we want to have in it, but just developing it and getting it out and up and live, probably 2 weeks. So we'll send out a press release.
Yes.
Our business has been burgled a few times, and most recently, we had to call the police department or ask the police department for any information. Is there no obligation on your side to tell the person that's been in business, that's been hit, any, like, yes, we sent a warrant out for that guy, or we didn't, or we got him, or he's in jail, or something like that?
And that's what we'd like to do. We think that's important. That communication with our victims of crime is a component of community policing, and if we have failed you some way in doing that, so we apologize. But that is an expectation that we will have, and that's better communication with our citizens. And so we hope these different measures and different approach that we're taking will help solidify that communication. And in the case that you were just mentioning, you're a victim of some burglary or some crime, that there's follow-up and communication to that effect as far as what has occurred as far as the investigation. So we find that's important. If we have failed you in that, we apologize, but we're building that back into our police department. Yes, sir.
I would like to see that drug at the park. We have drugs at the pool constantly. I mean, it was out in the open. It was an 8-year-old boy who was out there selling drugs and different things in that area. And day after day, nothing ever happened. We had everywhere from the police department to the lifeguards to the park people. But I was unable to convince any of them that they should give tickets for doing this. And I think this is a terrible thing. So if not only that, we would work on the drugs in the park and make arrests to those that should be put where they should be put. And tickets for every car that's parked after, it says it closes at 10. Get them until 11 o'clock. But let's take out some of those people that are out of line. They're out there in that park at night doing terrible things, including beating up people. Like one guy, there was a gang out there one night, and they were beating up one of their own guys, and he kept trying to get up and run for his life, and he ended up in my driveway. So I'm in my car looking through my window because I want to see what's going on in this park. And it's terrible when I'm seeing out there sometimes. And we need to clean these people up and get them out and give them violations. And again, I want to thank you, the police department, for all you do. And I will stand side by side if I ever could, and I have stood side by side with officers at times, including saving one of their lives. So I ask you to clean up this for the future. Thank you.
Your support. And your complaints fits right in line with what I was talking about. Obviously, the park belongs to everyone. It doesn't belong certainly to the criminals. And we want everyone, families included with children, to enjoy their park, our park, without fear of being victims of criminal activity. So that is very important to us. We recognize there were some things going on in our parks. In fact, we are hearing it from some of our park staff. They were being harassed. We saw graffiti in the parks that was challenging to this community because it was challenging our police officers. It was challenging our park rangers to do something about their illegal behavior. So Scott Zushin led a team along with Lieutenant Merrifield, and for a period of time they went in there with limited resources, but went in there to send a message and start arresting people for their illegal behavior. Now, we realized that this was only going to be a short-term fix, and as your police department grows back, there's going to be a lot of short-term fixes we'll have to be looking at. Longer term, we would like to see both a downtown and bike officer assigned to those areas, because we think those two areas, along with the university, are the three gems in Chico. University, Bidwell Park, and downtown, and they should be safe for families and people to go down without fear of being victimized by crime. So we understand your frustration, we share it, and we're going to do something about it, but just give us some time to build back the police department so we do it on a more long-standing effort, as opposed to some of the more shorter-term fixes we have to find currently. But we do recognize it, and we are going to do something about it. Yes, sir.
I see the drug dealing going on, and I get frustrated because I wonder, do you know what's going on? When I see it daily, and I sometimes, I'm not blaming you, don't get me wrong, I just wonder, do you know this is going on daily over there? And my second question is about Mangrove Plaza. Are you aware of everything going on over there? Because it's a dangerous place.
It's not just here, it's over on Nord Avenue, it's over on Park Avenue. Unfortunately, it's symptomatic of what I call quality of life crime. It's the effects of prison so-called reform and Prop 47. And that, in case just so you guys are aware, Prop 47, because we're talking about drugs, was the changing of felony level drug crimes into misdemeanors. And one of the unintended consequences, and I think people were well-meaning with Prop 47, but they didn't think out the full consequences. And one of those consequences was that drug court, which has been very successful in many, many communities throughout California, was rendered essentially obsolete because the way drug courts work, if I popped this man here with the microphone for drugs in our park, he was charged with a felony. Not picking on you. You're charged with a felony, and then you have a choice. You have a choice. Either you can go to rehab, go to drug court and get help and get off your drugs, or you can go to jail. Now that hook, that reason for going to rehab has been lost because we've taken a felony, turned it into misdemeanor, and now you just say, no, send me to jail, knowing that you'll do maybe a couple hours in our jail. And it's not the jail's fault. They're overcrowded. They have to keep violent people in there. And he's going to get kicked. He's not going to do any jail time. He is not going to get help. And that means that we have more addicts on our streets and more thieves. And that's the challenge that we all have as a community to address. Now, getting back to your specific issue, yeah, we do understand what's going on. That's why we started some directed patrols in the park. We knew that at least on the short term, we had to send a message. But longer term, we have to come up with some better solutions. And so we're working on that. But I just want to be real and honest that your police department is not ready to fully impact the part like we would like. But we're getting there, and this target team will help us do that. That's a good step in the right direction.
I want to follow up too on the question. You mentioned the Mangrove Plaza, and we did a walk over there, as I mentioned, when I opened, and we heard some concerns about the Next Cycle facility, which had been behind the buildings and is now in front of the buildings, and we heard a couple of other issues regarding some aggressive behavior, blocking people from getting in and out of businesses, and harassment around vehicles and those kinds of things. So I see you shaking your head. Is that a concern of yours also? Did you have anything specific that we could look at related to the Mangrove Plaza?
Well, I think one of the problems is they're, I don't know if these transit homes, they become very old. Yesterday when I went out to Safeway, 10:30 in the morning, some guy just locked his bike up. He was 2 hours. And some guy drove up, didn't have his shirt on. He was on a bike, pretending like he was locking up his bike. The guy stood there and watched him, and they had to stare down. I saw this whole thing going down. They had to stare down. The bike theft guy knew that the owner was watching him. So he pretended to put on his shirt and he moved away. But then he came back, the guy went to the store, and he couldn't get the locks off the bike. So he literally started destroying the bike. And dumping dish soap all over. And the high school kids that were there at Safeway, when Chico High, were yelling at him, and it didn't even seem to impact him. It's like there was he didn't even care. The public was watching him destroy his bike.
So something that I'm wondering, especially since you mentioned the drug deals, and we've heard it a couple of times, that citizens are observing things that you would think are criminal behavior or that make you sort of afraid or uncomfortable. So I guess I want to know from the police department, especially since a lot of the things that we heard, not currently, but over the last several years, is that, you know, they would call and dispatch wouldn't take the report, or they would say we can't send anyone out. So where are we with that? And if citizens are business owners are witnessing these types of things, do you want to know about it? What kind of detail do you want to know, and how will you follow up on that?
So like I said, we do want to know about it, and I'll just tell you that the city manager and I walk every Friday in some segment of your community, and several weeks ago we actually walked the Mangrove Plaza and spoke to every business owner that was open that particular morning. So we do know what's going on there, do understand the frustration, and do share your frustration with that issue. And again, I'm not here to make excuses for what the police department was. I'm telling you where we're going. But I do want to acknowledge the past in that we were not as responsive as we needed to be as a police department. Referring people just to cop logic with no follow-up is not acceptable to me as your police chief. And not following up with our victims of particular crimes is not acceptable to me as your police chief either. So as we are building back your police department, it's not just the creation of the target team, it's building back your patrol staff, it's building dispatch, it's building investigations, it's building the infrastructure that allow us to do our job more effectively and be a full-service police department once again. And it's all tied to staffing. And we have the support of our city council and of our city manager's office that is allowing us to do that. But like I said, it takes some time. Not to make excuses, I want to be honest and completely transparent. It takes a year's worth of time to send someone through the academy and get them through a field training program to a fully functioning police officer position, and we're making great progress, but we're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Just one more follow-up too. If people are witnessing these things, should they give you a call?
Absolutely, and if you have not received service in the past, you've called, and for whatever reason we did not send an officer. I mean, sometimes I would tell you may call, and if we have 2 or 3 different critical incidents, it may wait a while. It's just a reality of our community. But we want to hear about it. We want to get officers out there to take a look and try to mitigate it as best we can with our first responders. But then the target team, that's really what their design is to come in and look at the problems a little bit more comprehensively, a little longer term, to impact them for the duration, not just for the next couple hours or couple days. So that's the design that we're creating with the target team approach.
Chief, should people use the new mobile app to send that message to get that kind of report to a tip line, or would they actually call dispatch?
It will depend, and thank you, Melanie. If it's something you just want to make us aware of, general comments, general concerns about what's going on in the park or in your neighborhoods, that tip line is fine. But if it's something that's an in-progress crime, you need to report that directly to dispatch so we can send officers out. But if it is, again, just something that you want to make us aware of, Nextdoor, the new app, you know, those kind of things, that's a great tool to use. But in-progress stuff where you need help immediately, get a hold of dispatch right away. Yes?
Did it change, so before you guys issued citation, these guys were camping in the park, whatever, and they would have like 3 days to remove their stuff. Did they give their correct name, and was there any recourse, like, I mean, down the road? I guess I just don't understand really what that did.
So let me talk, and it's a good segue, and I had failed to mention. So an ordinance was passed by the City Council last week, the Offenses Against Public Property Ordinance. And that's an important ordinance having to do with our civic center and then our waterways. And a component of that is having an immediate response to those that are camping in our creeks and different waterways. So we have now a tool to go in there and remove people. In some instances, maybe get the mentally ill some assistance that are being displaced from those campsites. But now we have an immediate ability, not have to post a camp and get people removed from certain areas of our community. I'm going to have Deputy Chief answer the rest of that question, because he worked for the target team many years ago.
Yeah, it's slightly different. What you're talking about is a 48-hour notice to abate the camp. It means remove the property. That's not a citation. That's not a criminal act. That's just cleanup. What we're looking at now is with the new city ordinance. 647E is, I think, what you were initially asking about, which is the unlawful lodging. And that we could cite as long as we found them in some kind of sleeping condition, is what the judges wanted to see. With the new city ordinance, it has a section there for simply storage of property, but it includes our waterways, riparian areas, the parks. It does not have a misdemeanor component outside of those. But the riparian areas are really where we're seeing the large collection of property anyways. But we now have the ability to arrest on a misdemeanor when we see those huge encampments that you've seen in the news. Did that answer what you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, you guys would come in and I would see where, they work campers. I walk the park every day. And so now it's like oh, they found a new place to camp. I mean, they found another spot where they cleared it out, and it's a place I've never seen it before. So they're avoiding, the spots where they were getting roused before. And so I was just curious whether there was any recourse. Do you just wake them up and say, hey, move along, or?
The reason for this is we're kind of tired of chasing our tails. We're spending a lot of city resources, DPW, the SWAT workers, the volunteers come clean up, when there was no accountability for all the garbage that was being collected. So we've had that compassion side, where we've been doing the cleanup and clean up creeks. Now we need some accountability for those who are creating the mess in the first place. So that's the direction we're headed. Okay. I think
What's the citation good for? What's it do?
On which one, sir? 647E or the local? If I can work with a guy who's a chronic problem, my goal is actually not to issue a citation. My goal is actually to solve whatever his issue is in being homeless. So we've got a really close collaboration right now, probably better than we've ever had with some of the service providers, and getting some of those guys services, getting them off the street. But if I start hooking these guys for misdemeanors, I always said that we needed the misdemeanor component, because if I just give them a ticket, an infraction, and they go on their way, it really doesn't mean anything to somebody who doesn't have anything in the first place. But if I can put cuffs on them, and I send them to Oroville, and their property is booked into my evidence, then that is a deterrent to them, because then it's a hassle. Even if they get released immediately from Oroville, it's still a hassle. And then they start collecting warrants, and they're getting arrested on those. But when we're doing this, we're telling them at the same time, hey, look, you get yourself into services, you make some effort to get yourself on your feet, or allow us to help you get out of the situation, we'll dismiss every one of those. Because we don't really want to go to court on them. We don't want to tie up our city attorney. We want to solve the problem. So that's our goal, is to get people out of stop the behavior that they're doing. Does that help answer the question, sir? Okay.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you are looking to vet at all with the appears to bring some issues, and they just went through a safety meeting study. The city spent quite a bit of money on that study. Part of what we found is the mental health issues that have been talked about, and that problems aren't necessarily more police officers, but more services. How are you?
Balanced approach. You need police officers to do much of what we're talking about, but you also need the collaborative effort that we're seeing here today with the Chamber, with the DCBA, with the service providers that we've had for a while. We'll look to whatever community is doing a good job with their situations. What I hope to be is that Chico is going to be a model for other communities on how to solve these issues in a effective and meaningful way. So as part of our process, absolutely, we'll look at whoever's doing it well, who's ever doing it right, meaning that that balance of compassion and accountability. And if someone is doing it better, then we're going to look at that model. But like I said, my hope is that these individuals to my right are going to find ways that will make Chico a model in dealing with these issues that are throughout California right now. Yes, sir.
I'm the new GM at Motels. I'm really trying to get the lot of that going on. But to me, it's your presence isn't there that often. If you guys need like a substation or something like that, we could make it that you guys could have, a room that's for you guys, that you don't have to go somewhere and write your reports and stuff like that. My dad was a police officer, I know you guys work hard too, but I just want to make it so that you guys can have more presence.
We appreciate that. And then, again, this is a question that probably is right up Deputy Chief Britt's alley. Working with the Target team, he had a great collaborative effort with our motels in town, so I'm going to have him address that question for you.
Yeah, well, there were several hotels that were having issues back when the team was in existence. We worked really closely with them. Sure, got it? That better? Sorry, I thought I projected well, maybe not. But particularly Motel 6 was having a lot of issues, and at that time they would share their register with us every day. It was emailed to the team. We would go through there to make sure there wasn't some people that we were aware of that would cause you issues, and the team was in there daily at that time. That's something we could start up again, certainly. It didn't take a whole lot of time for the officer. We're talking about the officers being assigned to certain sectors. I think it was one of the ladies in the back that brought it up. We have 6 beats right now, and the goal for this team, as you see, right now it's 2 guys. Our hope is by this time next year, there's a full 6 officers, 1 for each beat. So the officer that's in your area, you email that list to him every day. He'll look, see if there's any ones that are going to cause you problems, and then we will come in and help you deal with that. So it's a very proactive approach, and we would love to start that back up again. Yes. Correct, and the chief was talking about that staffing issue. We keep getting back to that. The truth is we have 92 that are allocated right now. You know, at the time that we were running with Target, back in the first part of that was 102. So even at 92, we're still going to be somewhat shy of that, but we're coming back trying to use our resources more efficiently. That's the reason you see, even though we're 10 down, we're putting actually more resources into that model. But you're going to see these guys come in, and when they're filled out, and with the support from city management, from us, be able to do a whole lot more for you than even the team that I was blessed with. These guys, our ceiling hopefully will be their floor. No, it's croissant.
All right, this poor gentleman with the beer in the back has been apparently trying to get my attention for some time. So, sir.
I hope I'm not beating a dead horse. I want to talk about the recycling center over here on Vancouver a little bit more. Since they moved that, I didn't know actually, you mentioned earlier, it used to be behind buildings. Is that correct? So, in the time that it's been, maybe a month that it's been out front now, I've been asked no less than 3 times by women to escort them either from Safeway, that's where people are shopping, to their cars because they don't feel safe. And I never had anybody ask me that when it was in its old location. Was it moved because people used to be working plenty, and so they're looking for a new home for it? And what's the legalities with whoever owns that strip mall or Safeway itself putting that system there as opposed to somewhere else in the union?
So do we have anyone from Mangrove Plaza here that can speak to that? Yes. You were first with your hand, so I thought you had the answer.
I own a laundromat over there, and the next site used to be all the way in the back, tucked in the corner. People slept there, we did everything back there, every day, every night. There were cars parked in the post office parking lot, people sleeping there. As we talked about earlier, human waste behind our doors every day. I mean, it became a real, because it was easy for them to be back there and do all kinds of stuff. Right, and so now that it's in the open, people don't like it, but for the business owners over there, it's kind of a relief because there's so much less traffic riding by, coming in our store to hang out, doing all those kinds of things. It's uglier than sin to be out there, and Safeway has to have the next cycle within like a half a mile of its buildings. So that's why it's there. But I mean, I would want to believe it's not there. I don't like that it's still part of it. They don't like the way.
I think Matt has got maybe some clarification for folks.
Yeah, I've got an interest down Plaza, and a couple of subjects here. The next cycle behind Safeway was there a complete disaster. Since they moved it out in front, number one, Safeway hasn't burned since. Number two, I have a lot less cleanup to do. I have camping out every night. Thanks to Winston Karuchian, he would come by my store at night and let me know what was going on there.
Winston's one of our officers, just so you guys know.
ever since they moved that thing out front, and I'm in a lot of contact with Safeway management, the ownership of the plaza there is divided between the Sunset Cemetery of Berkeley and Safeway. There's a division there next to my store and down towards the end of Safeway. So there's two property managers involved in that process. It's not just one overriding entity. The thing that I've noticed is a lot less traffic. There's a hole cut in the cyclone fence between myself and Rite Aid. I usually call it Bum Freeway. And it's not happening anymore. You just don't see it. I was going to try and get that closed up, but it's not an issue. But moving it out front has kept those people in the spotlight, and they have to be a little more well-behaved. And moving it from the shade out in the middle of the parking lot reduces the loitering in and around there, and the drinking and all that kind of thing. So we've kind of put them in the spotlight, which brings me to my next point. The number one thing that I've seen really work in this town, and Dave, you know me for years, and when my business was downtown for 18 years, I really thought the bike patrol was a tremendous thing. And you touched on that momentarily. When I see an officer cruise our lot in a patrol unit, these guys scatter like cockroaches when you turn on the light. Just the visibility of the officers on the street, not necessarily making contact, but just maybe giving it two eyes on them and hey, we're watching them. I'm very rare to bike that problem in front of Mangrove. I offer free parking in my store for anybody shopping. We don't sell cable locks anymore to people. As far as the licensing thing, I'm touching on a few things. The licensing thing here, I would love to make it really easy so when somebody buys a bike in my store, I charge them the registration fee right there. I get them registered, I cut a check to the city once a month, I photograph it. If I can upload it to your system right there, I got a picture of the bike, a picture of the owner, and the serial in the bank. Because a lot of it is inconvenience. And you know, they go, I'll get down to the university, or I'll get down to, I try to make it as easy as possible. I have the city form right there. And every time I fill it out for them, you just have to sign your name. That would be a real time saver, and we get a lot of those product. You know, even somebody bringing for repair or something like that, heavy registered. Just little comments like that. But going back to Mangrove, again, the presence of officers and just their visibility is absolutely huge in all of our town. And having a bike patrol go through night, you know, through the park up there, you're going to see all kinds of stuff that, you know, usually the bike patrols work in pairs for safety, which I think is a good thing. But getting those guys back on the agenda with using your resources that you have, I think it should be a high priority for not only downtown, but our area here, which seem to be the main areas of problems. Remember we used to talk about students? They're great. They're future officers.
We talked about students in the past? I don't remember that. But you bring up some good points, Matt. It shouldn't be a great burden to have your bike registered, so we're looking at ways to do that, to include maybe having a free registration day or periods of time, you know, particularly when the students come into town. Our new app will have a component of that. So we're looking at different ways to make registration of bikes easier. And getting back to your bike patrol comment, I was an old bike officer many years ago in my former life when I actually did police work. And it is very effective, and particularly in areas around the downtown, around the parks, it is extraordinarily effective. And so our hope is to bring back that component. On occasion, you'll probably see our target team on bikes. I don't know if they knew that or not, to go into different areas. Not long term, but maybe go in and hit something for a week or two. And then next summer, we're taking our C team. And speaking of students, in the summer, we have a C team, and actually throughout the year we have a C team, which is really designed for the return of the students in dealing with large parties and the like. In the summer, with the students gone, it's not quite as important. So we're going to take that C team in the summer, and we're going to take a sergeant and 6 officers and assign them to the target team for that 3-month period in the summer to do exactly what you're talking about, essentially taking our target team and doubling it, and making it a much greater force to go in and deal with these issues that really primarily hit us in the summer months, particularly in the park and the downtown. And just to let you guys know, this time of year we have an influx of the transit population due to the marijuana grows. They come in to trim plants, and that's another element, another component that we need to deal with. So next summer, you will see our target team not only fully staffed, but enhanced by another patrol team for 3 months to impact these issues that are going on, particularly in the downtown and the Bidwell Park areas. Yes, sir, in the back.
As a manager of a business in downtown Chico that opens at 5:30 in the morning, I very frequently call on transient people, homeless people coming in, whatever it is. I'm almost always told that there is not an officer in the area. I made 3 phone calls the other day within the first hour of opening my doors. I'm just wondering, as you rebuild this police staff, do you have a timeline for an officer located like in downtown to patrol? And then also, is there like a strategic timeline that you're going to start staffing these officers? Because I feel like when I call at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, it's just because there's not enough officers on to come out, to the point that I feel like I call dispatch and they know my name every single time I call.
And it could have been bad timing. We have an officer assigned, again, to our 6 beats in our community 24/7, and maybe for whatever reason, maybe those 3 times the officer was tied up. I don't know. Certainly we can look into it. But we do want to be responsive to those concerns when you're going to your business and you have someone sleeping in your alcove. And that's one of the things the new ordinance does address. It kind of cleaned up the sit and lie ordinance. If you had people that were sleeping in a business alcove that we have frequently in the downtown area, we did not have an ability to deal with that. This new ordinance does provide us that ability. So we will be more responsive as we build back. Hopefully you'll see officers that are going to be available to provide that very service. Give us some time. So hopefully in the next several months, you'll have that ability to contact an officer at 5:30 in the morning and have someone respond. Yes, sir.
Flare cleaners. I own Flare Cleaners on Mangrove, so I've been there since 1980. And we used to deal with Bar X and all kinds of people sleeping there. But regarding the recycle thing up front, I understand that Safeway has to have them within a half a mile of their store. I did make a comment, suggestion the other day to the city councilman, is why don't they have one on the Jesus Center property in the back there? I know that maybe you can't control that, but the idea is they go there for their meal on breakfast, they go over there for dinner. If they just took the recycle cans there and recycled them there, that would probably relieve all these other recycle places of having these issues in different parts of the towns, because that's where they're going anyway, morning and night. So that would probably eliminate a lot of this people for reason to come to the recycle bin on our property to begin with.
That's a good point. I think part of the issue with this area is that we do have a lot of people probably camping in the park that we need to uproot and get out of the park, and that's why the draw to that particular location for the recycling is probably occurring there. Do we have anyone from the plaza here, not just a business owner? Do we have someone representing the plaza shopping center itself? Yes, sir.
I've been doing the landscaping of the shopping center since 1980. And first I want to say the responses that have been coming in when things have occurred there, I've really noticed a difference in the last couple of months. Things happen at the center and you guys are right there. I've seen a bike theft, transient drama. You guys send people out every time, and I can't say I appreciate that a lot. I've been on the phone with one of the owners, Tom Fazekas, has expressed an interest in a private security firm. Do you guys work do they interface with your operation at all?
They do, and we are not opposed to private security because it just enhances a uniform presence. And most of the time, I think Matt was talking about, just having an officer drive through or a security guard drive through makes a difference. They can't do everything a police officer does. They do not replace your police department, but they can enhance a police department. And so as long as they're doing their jobs right and correctly, we'd be in favor of such a relationship.
Okay, we're just at noon. That's 60 minutes. I think we asked everybody for an hour at least initially. Can I get a show of hands for those who would be interested in meeting again to talk about the same topic with the Chico Police Department if you guys are available? Okay, because I feel like we just sort of barely scratched the surface. So I want to reiterate a couple of things. I heard some requests of the police department, and then I heard some ideas for the community. One, register bikes. So you're encouraging people to get their bikes registered. They will be able to do that through the Nextdoor app, is that correct? Yep. Okay, 2, do report crimes and tips through the tip line when it's available. I think the community has sort of gotten apathetic in terms of you're seeing crimes taking place and you're just not reporting them to the police department anymore, and you're really wanting the community to communicate with you again. Third, something we heard at the Nord Corridor meetings was that businesses have the opportunity to register their surveillance equipment with the police department. Is that an opportunity still available? So that is, if you own a business, operate a business, and you have surveillance equipment attached to your business and you want to be able to share that information or just to be able to converse with the police department on, I think, what that surveillance equipment is capturing, you can register that equipment with the police department, and they'll be available afterwards if you have any questions about that. Utilize the Nextdoor app. I hear it's coming and will be tweaked over the next couple of weeks. And then I'm hoping to be able to give everybody, if not today, at a future meeting, some really direct contact information for whom they should call. I know I heard Sabrina in the background talk about that downtown contact name, and we obviously want to be able to know who that would be for this area as well. What we're hearing from the community is we need patrol in the parks, obviously. We need response if something is noticed, and obviously follow up if a crime has occurred at your business and you just want to know what happened, what was the result of that, and bike patrol. So I want to close by thanking our Chief and Deputy Chief Britt, Sergeant Scott Zeshin, and our new target team here, and our panelists from Chico as well, Lieutenant Merrifield. Thank you for sitting on our side of the table. I think it's a great opportunity to continue these conversations, and I hope you will be part of future meetings. Our next meeting is on Park Avenue on October 22nd at 3:30 p.m. at Chico Country Day School in the middle school common room. And you probably have picked up on the fact that a lot of the themes at these safety meetings are the same. So if you want to continue this conversation with us and with the police department, you're welcome to come to any upcoming safety meeting. They're listed on the Chamber's website. We continue to do press releases. We will hold a downtown safety meeting on November 17th as well, so that will be downtown specific. Let me know. My name's Katie at the Chamber if you have any questions. And I want to close by inviting you to participate in the Beautiful Clean Safe campaign. This is a new, not a new, but the Downtown Chico Business Association created this campaign a couple of years ago, and it's now citywide. So we're encouraging community volunteerism throughout the next couple of weeks. And on Make a Difference Day, which is October 24th, and Melanie just came over and whispered in my ear the idea that we might do a bike registration booth in the plaza at some point too. So we need to just continue to get together, have these conversations, stay vigilant, communicate with your neighbors, report information to the police department, and hopefully be part of the solution as we're all trying to be here today. So will you be available for a few minutes if people have questions? Okay, great. So with that, Oh, and surveys, sorry, Heather is waving. The gold forms, if you can turn those in at the end, we will be following up if you do so request. And we appreciate your participation. Thanks so much.